Okay, today we have a topic that we're going to be discussing. This is not a prepared topic. This is just something that we're throwing together because of recent events. So today, the news hit of the tragic shooting. Over 100 people have been shot in a gay nightclub in Florida, and half of them are dead. So this is the biggest or the largest, most significant shooting in U.S. history. So we're just going to be doing this is completely non-prepared. We're just going to have a discussion, looking over a few articles and just talking candidly about this. So what are your thoughts on the situation?
Well, we're recording this probably a little over, 16 hours maybe after this happened. I'm not exactly sure when it happened, but
Right.
information is still trickling in. So just as a word of caution that, as of this recording, we may not have the full picture. We're just going based off of media reports as
Absolutely, and
as they're coming in.
that's good to bring up because we don't want to. This is very recent news, so we don't. There's a lot of information we do not know yet.
That's right. And I when I first heard about it, it was around 20 people were reported, and now I think the final, maybe, yeah, the final is over 50, and that may climb depending on. I mean, I'm assuming people that are injured are probably in intensive care, and who knows what'll happen. But um, of course, after everything like that happens like this is immediately politicized. Um,
Yeah, and just to clarify on the numbers, so we have 50, or this is the current numbers are 50 have been killed and more than 50 wounded. But yes,
that's
politicization. Yeah, let's hold off on that one for a moment because there's lots to say about that. And first, let's talk a little bit about so is at a gay club. First of all, I'm thinking just I'm trying to wrap my head around how one person, even if they're well armed, is able to shoot over 100 people without anybody taking them down. I can imagine, panic, people running, people trying to escape, and perhaps that's the reason that nobody's actually going after the gunman, which is probably the case. But those numbers are so high.
that's right. I mean, it's no coincidence that most of these shootings occur in places like movie theaters or clubs or concert halls where it's dark. There's going to be lots of confusion, and basically you can just, if you have anything that's remotely automatic, you can just kind of shoot from the hip and probably wound and kill dozens of people. But yeah, it's a good question. How, I mean, what there are reports that this shooter had some kind of suicide vest on, from the Orlando Sentinel. They're reporting that he had a some kind of suicide vest on. So the intentions of the attack are not clear. Well, the reports of the motivations are coming out, but the intention fully is not clear, because the suicide vest report has not been fully vetted. So was there going to be some sort of explosive involved? Not sure, but it appears that, again, just from what the reports are, the weapons that he did have were all legally obtained, and I believe he was the owner of them.
Yeah, I've been seeing quite a few. It seems that's a very important thing to know that they were legally obtained because I'm sure that this never would have happened if America would just get rid of their guns, which we'll get to in a second, the politicization. But as far as the motive, um, this is interesting. I don't know. The name of the shooter is Omar Sadiq Mateen. Of course, we shouldn't make any assumptions about his ethnicity or religion, but his father was interviewed on NBC, Mir Sadiq, and apparently his father said this has nothing to do with religion. Nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the fact his father says that he saw two men kissing and was enraged by that. So I guess that we're supposed to feel sorry for him or something. That was very traumatic that he had to see two men kissing, so he had to go kill 50 people and wound more than 50 others. Um, I'm sorry, you're going to say something?
Oh, I just want to say I did see that he is the child of Afghani immigrants.
Correct.
So,
Lived. I believe he was raised in New York City, another migrant enclave in many ways, and they were Afghan migrants, but not recent migrants. From my understanding, I believe that he was raised. He's a U.S. citizen, 29 years old, born to Afghan parents, and this is from the New York Post. I'm just reading off some information here. But so obviously not very well integrated into American society, even though he's 29 years old and appears to have been raised in America. So the motive, kill gay people, that seems to be something that is reoccurring in the Muslim world. So whether it's ISIS throwing them off of buildings, or if it is the vast number, and for anybody who's listening, you can go look it up. You can even do the Wikipedia page. Very simple. Look up what the LGBT laws are. Look up a world map or individual nations that and what their penalties are for being gay, and you'll find that the Middle East is brightly lit, and that is brightly lit for death penalty and life imprisonment. So I don't buy the statement that this has no correlation with his religion.
well, of course, I'm seeing that ISIS is actually claiming responsibility, and according to California Rep. Adam Schiff, Mateen, the shooter, quote, made a pledge of allegiance to ISIS, unquote, and this is from the New York Post. And he is the top Democrat on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. So the government knew before this happened that this guy pledged allegiance to ISIS, and he actually was on a watch list. And the FBI was pursuing him at one point, but then stopped because they didn't find anything suspicious.
Yeah, because it's hard for me to. It's very rational if you think about it. Very logical. If somebody is going to go on a mass killing spree, they are not the type of person that is generally going to have a previous criminal record. Hardened criminals are not interested in mass killing. They are interested in getting what they want, whether if they're tactical murderers, or if they're rapists, or if they are criminal, just they're selling drugs, or the majority of petty crime. They want to get what they want. Mass shooters are not in that line of criminal. Mass shooters want to kill as many people as possible. Now you have the random mass shooters that just go to a public area and, hey, let's kill everybody I see. And then you have the targets, and we can see there's a strong correlation as to the targeting shooting. At least recently, there have been quite a lot of them of the same particular religion, and they seem to be targeting particular individuals. Gay people are on the top of the list. Jewish people are on the top of the list. Free press organizations are at the top of the list. Yeah. Well, I'll transition a little bit into politicizing. Again, President Obama, would not mention any religious affiliation. I heard I have up here, Barack Obama, The comments that come out from the mainstream media, from the politicians in their scripted teleprompter BS agenda written by teams of speechwriters and psychologists, carefully crafted. I am so utterly tired of it at this point. I saw earlier there was a press conference with the police down in Florida, and the statements that they made were the inflection that they used, the way it was communicated was so normalized. It was like, yeah, we had a mass shooting. It's really sad. We should come together as a community. This does not represent our community. This is the worst shooting in U.S. history. I mean, I don't expect people to put on fake emotions or anything, but how about you give a message of substance of some sort? And Obama, and I don't mean to, I'll let you, I'm sure you have something to say, but I'm looking at Obama right now. So we have, let me just read off a few of his just super vague quotes. And they even have, every time you see him, he's looking at a teleprompter. I mean, they even have the freeze frame here of him talking the video, and you can tell he's looking at a teleprompter. It's either left or right, left or right, left or right, and he's just reading this off. Sobering reminder that attacks on any American, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation, is an attack on all of us and of the foundational values of equality and dignity that define us as a country. Vague, just vague platitudes, and all love us all together. We're all together.
It's very generic.
Very generic. Super generic. It's so vague because the audience is, for the most part, so ignorant that they are unable to look for specificity. Another quote. The shooter was apparently armed with a handgun and a powerful assault rifle. Really? Was apparently armed with a handgun and a powerful... Could you define a powerful assault rifle? Maybe you could define a weak assault rifle.
Exactly.
It's this completely asinine. And this, by the way, the source for this is the Daily Mail. But these are direct quotes. So let's see a few of these. This is a quote by Trump. Trump said, "Is the president going to finally mention the words radical Islamic terrorism? If he doesn't, he should immediately resign in disgrace." And typical kind of Trump quote. But again, the president won't. I mean, the president won't. And Trump he makes a good point, I think, in that regard. And he says, look, you can't fight the enemy if you're not even going to say who they are. And Obama refuses. And so you can look some more of these ridiculous quotes up from Obama if you want. They're all super vague. Here's another one. What is clear is that he was a person filled with hate. Yeah, no shit. Really, I mean, he's filled with hate. You think so? He shot over 100 people. We're still learning the facts. This is an open investigation. We have reached no definitive judgment on the precise motivations of the killer. And it says here, NBC reported earlier that the gunman, identified as 29-year-old Omar Mateen, had called 911 before he staged his attack, pledging allegiance to ISIS. So Obama comes out and says we have reached no definitive judgment on the motives. And this guy called 911 before the attack and said he was pledging allegiance to ISIS. Now, you can't tell me the president wasn't aware of that.
Right. Well, and what's bizarre about this is you have two Democrats, one in the House and one in the Senate, who high-ranking Democrats. One I've already mentioned, Adam Schiff. The second being U.S. Senator Bill Nelson from Florida. And he's quoted as saying that there appears to be a link to Islamic radicalism and ISIS. Quote, I asked the FBI if there was any connection to Islamic radicalism. There appears to be, unquote. But they are naturally cautious and waiting throughout to see if this is facts emerge. So, yeah, I mean, you have two ranking Democrats in Congress who are willing to pin the blame on ISIS and radical Islam, and Obama, and I would be shocked if Hillary Clinton said it, are apparently refused to say it.
Yeah, we have to, if anybody who is intelligent, mentally aware at this point has to seriously ask the question, why is it that not just the U.S. government, the European government, are so, and the EU is definitely very much involved with the U.S. They're kind of like on the same team. And the question is, why do they not want to recognize this? And I'm not going to answer that question in this video, but it's a question that needs to be asked. Why are they unwilling to recognize and verbalize what the enemy is? And even when we say, and for anybody listening, I have a very deep background in Western Islamic relations, as far as paying attention to the pulse of cultural conflicts, terrorism, the historic and systemic conflicts that have existed since the very beginning. And I watch this issue very closely. And I have a very large number of videos that I have the intent of making in regard to this topic. It's a matter of time to get them put out. But one thing I will say is that if you go to, I don't know the website right now, I should find it. I will find it while we're talking. But if you go to this website, it has all kinds of information on actual polls that have been taken by like Pew Research Foundation, reputable survey, social science, demographic collectors, and they ask questions to determine how radical Muslims are in different nations. And if you actually look at the findings of these polls, one thing that you'll find, reputable poll institutions, is that when they talk about radical Islamic groups, you're realistically talking about half of the population of the Muslim world. It's not like a couple fringe like we think of here as like the Westboro Baptist Church. They're crazy Christian fundamentalists. They're nuts, right? They could be a group that could be turned into terrorists. But when you're talking about the Muslim world, it's not the same. It's completely not the same. And I'll let you talk for a while. I'm going to bring up that website. It'll be easy to find so that if anybody's listening, they can look it up.
Right. And I mean, first of all, everybody, after any time something like this happens, of course, the first thing people do is call for gun control. Although the unique thing about this situation is because it is a target of clearly the gay community, is that the first thing people blame is Christians who object to homosexuality. It's not people. It's not Muslims who disapprove and hate gay people
and kill them.
It's right. It's the Christians' fault. But no, I mean, so here we have a situation. This morning, Tom Brokaw, in his infinite wisdom, called for banning the AR-14. So if anybody,
not the 15,
right? If anybody knows anything about guns, they will know that the AR-14 does not exist. So
yeah. Okay.
So
maybe it's a preemptive ban on something we don't know about.
Very true. Yes, very true. But speaking of that, we have the top Florida imam who asks the media and the public not to sensationalize the massacre at the Pulse nightclub. Just call it a mass shooting, and he calls for stricter gun control.
Yeah.
So and going along with that, according to I'm looking at pjmedia.com, there's a link to a video of an imam speaking in Orlando in April, and there's a video of this. This is on YouTube. It says that killing gays, according to Islamic law, should be done, quote, out of compassion, unquote.
Jesus.
So
this is the level that I just pause it for a second right there, and that is the level of callous brutality that we're dealing with in the rapidly expanding Muslim world. And for people not to recognize this reality, it's pure insanity at this point that people are unwilling to recognize. You say, well, all religions are the same. They have no differences. Religions are ideas. They are perspectives. They are ways of looking at the world. They have infinite possibility in how far divergent they can be. And for someone to push this agenda, this regressive agenda that somehow, because it's a religion, it's off limits. Not just a religion, because it's a non-Western religion. Because if they were Christians doing this, there would be there would be violence. Churches would be burning. And yet, because it's a non-Western religion, we're supposed to just swallow it. I'm sorry. Without digressing, continue, please.
Well, no, and I think that's true. I mean, David Petraeus, who a totally bizarre comment. It was last month, I believe. This is actually, I thought of this and I saw it's also linked on pjmedia.com as well. But he is quoted, of course, David Petraeus being the former director of the CIA and former commander at CENTCOM, wrote in the Washington Post that people need to self-censor themselves to avoid offending Muslims. So is he going to argue that gay people should go back into the closet because he doesn't want to offend Muslims? I mean, or I guess if they're around Christians, then they can come out of the closet and offend them. But it's
of course, and that's very similar. Sounds very very familiar. And as you may know, in Germany, after some scandalous issues revolving sexual assault, some of the local governments decided to tell their people that their women should wear more clothing. The German government told their own people, told their own women, where are the feminists? You should put on some clothes. You're offending the Muslim migrants. You were asking to get raped. I mean, are you kidding me? This is real. This is real.
Yes. It's, well, of course, that's right. I mean, where are the feminists? And, go to, CNN or the New York Times or any of these sort of heavily, or the Huffington Post, these heavily left-wing websites, and look at the comments. And again, it's about gun control and Christians, how it's Christians' fault because they hate gay people.
Yeah,
so,
it's the first thing they say. It's actually somebody just sent me, somebody who might have joined us tonight for this discussion but couldn't, sent me a link where essentially somebody was saying that this was a right-wing shooter. Now, I don't know when Muslim extremists became part of the right wing. I would like to know when that happened.
Well, he's one of the few extreme radical right-wingers who's been registered Democrat his entire voting life.
Exactly. So we have here just a few headlines I was looking at. This is Reuters: Muslim leader heartbroken over Florida shooting rampage. Why is this even? Why is this? When I type in shooter, Florida, this is one of the first things that comes up. Muslim leader heartbroken over Florida shooting rampage. You know who's heartbroken? The family of the victims. That's who's heartbroken. I don't give a shit about who cares about this guy. The Muslims give me a break. It's propaganda. It's pure propaganda. Then we have the latest ABC News: spontaneous vigil held in Paris. Oh, is it going to be as spontaneous and long-lasting and effective as when everyone changed their Facebook profiles to the French flag? Is that going to be? Are they going to make all their profiles the American flag, and then we just won't do anything at all and continue and wait for the next mass killing? Probably. Let's be as effective as we possibly can by doing nothing. I have the link. I will put this in the description for anybody who's interested. But the website's name is The Religion of Peace. So Religion of Peace, and if you type in The Religion of Peace opinion polls, and I'll put this description down there. And the heading is Muslim opinion polls, a tiny minority of extremists, ? And it has a list, and it's not a couple polls, not a few polls. There's got to be more than 100 polls on this page, and I haven't looked in every single one of them, but a huge number are by major polling institutions, and they have just some phenomenally disturbing results in these polls. Just if you have 5 minutes and you're watching this, click it, open it, bring it up on the side, and just look at some of the responses that you have in here, and you'll get a very quickly you'll have an idea of how much of a minority, in quotations, a minority these extremists are.
Well, that's right. And I pulled up the Huffington Post and just looked at their main article on it that I guess they keep updating. And the top two comments that have over 600 likes. The first one: every time one of these mass murderers using the AR-15 or other military-style weapons are used, I am grateful that here in Canada those weapons are illegal. I hope one day that Americans will wake up and ask themselves, why does this keep happening here and so much more than in other Western countries? The second comment: point the finger where it belongs. Evangelical Christian extremists who have been waging their battle, of hate on the LGBT population for far too many years. So apparently, I mean, and I just pulled this up after I said, about the gun control and the blaming the Christians, and it just confirmed. I mean, these have over 600 likes each, and no other comment even comes close. So, that's what the average Huffington Post reader thinks, is that it's AR-15 and it's evangelical Christian extremists who are apparently the reason why the ISIS Muslim guy who went in and shot and killed 50 gay people is because of evangelical Christian extremists.
Yeah, of course. The Huffington Post, I don't know. There's certain media outlets I won't even open because I will immediately become an alcoholic. So I just, I kind of relegate them to the sides. The Huffington Post is a total disaster. I can't take anything seriously that comes out of that. But it really does give you a mind into the type of people that do read that.
Well, that's right. And the comments like, my prayers go out to the victims, their families, and everyone involved, those get maybe a couple dozen likes, if that. But, the two most insane comments get, over 600 likes.
So let's go into a little bit of the politicization. And I want to be very clear. When we're talking about this, we're talking about it in a political manner. We're talking about it in a social context. And the reason for this is very simple. My heart does go out to the victims and the family of the victims. I think it's absolutely appalling. I think it's absolutely atrocious. This is something that should never happen. It should never have happened. And to target people, such a soft target. You're going into a nightclub. You're people going out that just want to have fun. They want to enjoy themselves. And that's true terrorism, striking people where they feel comfortable, where they're enjoying themselves. And I think it's very, very important to make this clear. If anybody has any doubt, I am not, and we are not, I feel I can speak for you as well. We are not in any way belittling what has happened. I take this extremely seriously. My issue is, and why I think we need to talk about it politically, is because nothing is being done about it, and this is going to happen again. For anybody who's not aware of this, these kinds of nightclub shootings and bombings have been going on for a long time. They just have not hit the United States until now, and you can bet any amount of money that this is not the last time that we're going to have a Muslim extremist blow himself up or shoot a bunch of people up in the United States. It's starting here. It's been going on in Europe. It's been going on all over the world, Southeast Asia, Europe, big targets, and now it's happening here. And we need to bring in all these Syrian refugees, right? So there are real implementable policy changes we can talk about now. And these people are dead. These people are dead and wounded. That is the reality of the situation that we're in now. But we need to start thinking immediately about the future. How can we prevent this? And we'll segue into the politicization because apparently the way we're going to prevent this in the future is by banning guns, right? Because this is the first thing that came up. So We have, yeah, gun control instantly started. So Obama started hinting at gun control. Bernie Sanders came right out when his statement about the. Actually, I'll bring up the direct quote because I don't want to misquote him. But go ahead, say your opinion. I'm sure you have something to say. I've been talking a lot.
Oh no, I was enjoying where you're going with that. Yeah, I'm curious to hear what Bernie Sanders says because being a senator from Vermont and Vermont being, even though it's basically a socialist experiment, it has some of the least restrictive gun laws in the country. So I'd love to
In
hear
what
what he has to say regarding how his constituents need to be punished for what a crazy person in Florida does. So if you can pull that up, that would be
Oh, yeah,
great.
I have it already. It is, this is people.com, and this is right after the shooting. Right after the shooting. It's horrific. It's unthinkable. This is a direct quote, Bernie Sanders. It's horrific. It's unthinkable. And just hopes go out to those who were shot that they can recover. And I've got to tell you, for 25 years now, I've believed that we should not be selling automatic weapons which are designed to kill people, and we've got to do everything we can on top of that to make sure that guns don't fall into the hands of people who should not have them, criminals and people who are mentally ill. So that struggle continues. So he's mentally ill. It has nothing to do with his religion because it's a religion of peace. He's just mentally
Well,
ill.
right, that's right. And never mind the fact that even the Huffington Post, of all places, is reporting that despite being under investigation by the FBI twice, he still purchased firearms legally. So, what can anybody tell me what new gun law that would have been passed could have prevented him from shooting people? I mean,
Well,
you know,
banning all the right. We've got to ban all the quote, assault rifles. Ban all when they say automatic weapons. They're talking about semi-autos because they have no clue what. Nobody that doesn't know about guns understands anything they're saying, right? Because automatic weapons, right? Oh, that sounds dangerous. Machine guns. I'm scared. So the next step is semi-autos. Go the route that a lot of European countries have gone on, Asian countries, right? Shotguns and bolt-action rifles. No handguns. No military style rifles. That's what they're going for.
well, and that's what they're going to get. I mean, if I mean, let's be honest. Right now, it doesn't matter what Congress does. It doesn't matter what the president does. It only matters what the Supreme Court does. And another Second Amendment case is going to the Supreme Court. And depending on which person is elected president, it may pretty much end the Second Amendment regardless. So,
But
yeah,
that's the point. What we're talking about when people hear this, a lot of people assume that this perspective, the perspective that we're holding in the Second Amendment, is somehow we're trying to hijack this and talk about gun control and firearm rights. But what we're saying is the hijacking is being done by the media. This has absolutely nothing to do with lawful gun ownership. This is a attempt to grab and destroy the Second Amendment because it's obvious if you have a shooting, a mass shooting, the worst mass shooting in American history. And we're not talking about the affiliation of the shooter, the religious affiliation. We're not talking about the fact that he targeted gay people. We're not talking about the fact that that is a trend in his religion. But we're automatically going to be bombarded by a list in the media. When you just type in the news, you're bombarded instantly with all kinds of hit pieces from the mainstream media talking about firearms, gun control, quotes on gun control from people that are anti-gun or anti-gun ownership, gun freedom, statistics on shootings, lists of the most recent shootings, what kind of guns were used. Why does any of that matter? Why is that so important?
I think the fervor of that will die down to some extent. Bad phrasing. Will come to pass after some time. I think what you may see is that will be replaced with some kind of as you just said, the whole gun control is missing the point. Well, I think what will happen is you're going to see this rise in um, LGBT rights, whatever that means. That's a big thing now. Well, it's going to be even bigger now. Gays need to be able to do these things, and transgender, and it's going to
Well,
be
I'll
an
give you an
excuse
idea.
to.
That's not to interrupt, but well, to interrupt. But here's an idea: LGBT rights. LGBT American citizens should have the right to go to nightclubs as they see fit and not worry about Islamic extremists running in with guns and explosives trying to kill them. They should have the right to purchase, if they have no criminal record, they should have the right to purchase and own and carry firearms for their defense. Those are the kind of rights the LGBT community should be focusing on if they really genuinely care about the community.
It's You're absolutely right. I think this will be used, however, as we've seen in certain potentially gay, but maybe not, left wing commenters who are going to use this as an excuse to further suppress the religion, or even just the thoughts or the feelings or the actions of people who had nothing to do with this. And we're going to ignore the fact that it's ISIS related. We're going to ignore the fact that it's probably, well, obviously religiously motivated from a standpoint of Muslims. And we're going to talk about how Christians are oppressing gay people, and we need the Supreme Court to do this, that, and the other.
Yeah, it's really sickening. This tactic of diversion has been going on for a very long time, and it's essentially you have a genuine, serious problem that's going on. You have this problem, and it's reported, but it's reported with all these slants. And by the time all the people don't follow stories for very long, most people, so they just see the headlines, they just see the slant. So we have all these reports that have come out in the past few years where they have somebody who's a shooter, or they've committed some kind of a crime, usually it's murder or assaulting an officer, something like that, and they report it as white perpetrator or right-wing perpetrator. And then it comes out that there's absolutely no affiliation. The person is non-white. Not that race is that we're talking about race, but it's this false association. They're trying to continually gloss over what's really going on so that they can just throw in whatever agenda they want to. And I feel like so many people in this country right now are so fundamentally ignorant. They don't understand logic and reasoning, and they're ignorant about how the whole system even works. They just see the headlines, they read a couple paragraphs, and then they get really mad because they have no emotional restraint. They're not logical. They get really mad, and then they go on social media and freak out on everybody. And we got to get rid of these right-wing extremists. And you're like, what are you talking about? But this diversion tactic is working wonders at controlling the herd of voters. It's very terrifying how this manipulation has been going on. I mean, here we have another. I just looked up Law News. Orlando mass murderer legally purchased firearms. ATF confirms. Why is that so important the day after the shooting? When we type in past 24 hours, Google video search, Florida shooting Islam, we get possible act of Islamic terror. Second one is Muslim leader heartbroken over Florida shooting rampage. Third one, after Orlando shooting, Muslim Americans show support for victims. And we get, there's others that go down. I've already picked out many times already where I've noticed in the Google results, and Google is definitely a political organization. In the Google results, the first videos that come up are always some kind of an agenda. And not to divert from the subject too much, but one thing that I noticed was very, very interesting. I could probably do it right now. I'll type in Trump, no search criteria. And it's the fourth one down now. The fourth video down is exclusive. Trump threatens third-party run by The Hill. That was published on July 23rd, 2015. That was the number one search finding on Google videos. If you just type in Trump, that's all, just Trump. You type it in Google videos, that was the number one search hit that you would get up until about a month and a half ago. Now, underneath that, now you have the next one that comes up is Trump's America First speech alarms U.S. allies. That's been the number one now for about, that was April 29th. It's been the number one for about almost 2 months. And I've noticed that if you just go down, what you'll find is, and this, I don't want to make this about Trump, but this is just an example. What you'll find is that the vast majority of all the first hits that you find are hit pieces. All the links that you find that come up first, almost all of them are hit pieces. There's a few that sprinkle in there, but and you can tell. I mean, the link is, if it's almost a year old, there's probably a problem there. I think that this is purposeful manipulation, just like what Facebook is doing. And when you're talking about things like mass shootings, people being killed, people being brutally maimed, and you have this kind of political manipulation to try to sway public opinion, I find it so disgusting.
Well, that's right. And of course, the top trending news article, and of course, trending is in quotes because the top news article that Facebook wants to trend is Donald Trump being Republican presidential candidate criticized for tweet following Orlando, Florida shooting. So that's the number one trending article because Donald Trump said that he was right about Islamic extremists, and now everybody is all fired up about that.
Yeah, I saw that from multiple news sources. I typed in Trump today with the search criteria, and just one giant wall of hit piece attacks for Trump saying that he was right about. I mean, of all the things, this is the problem. Okay, most people watch the media as if they're telling you the truth, and they only gloss over the surface of it. Once you realize that the media is not telling you the truth, they are trying to manipulate you, and you actually dig down, you realize that the things that certain politicians are saying are far, 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 far worse than the things that other certain politicians are saying and are portrayed in the media to be such. But it's so hard to get people to look at that depth.
Well, that's right. It's, and it's especially difficult for Trump right now because, he could be right about everything about this, but, people are going to come in with their preconceived biases, and just even, people on the right, people on the left, or it doesn't matter, and they're going to automatically, dismiss him, and as a result, you have him trending on Facebook as being criticized. Not even that he's wrong or anything. It's that he's criticized, and just because he's criticized means he's wrong, apparently.
Of course, because we already established that he's guilty due to other correlational advertisements, propaganda, etc. Something that I wanted to bring up, well, actually a couple things. I should mention this. I'm not sure if you knew about this, but there was a attempted copycat in Los Angeles today. A man with, let's see, we have Los Angeles Times here. Man with weapons and potential explosives wanted to harm, in quotations, LA Gay Pride Parade chief says. I'll just read a couple of paragraphs here. This is today, June 12th, 2016, 4:31 p.m. So this is very recent. Authorities on Sunday were trying to determine the intentions of an Indiana man with a cache of weapons, ammunition, and explosive making materials in his car and apparent plans to attend the LA Pride Festival in West Hollywood. Santa Monica Police Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks said on Twitter that the 20-year-old man told one of her officers after he was arrested that he wanted to harm gay pride event, in quotations, to harm gay pride event. But she did not provide any details, and officials said they are still trying to sort out his motives.
Yeah.
So another point, this is very interesting that I'd like to bring up, is that Reddit, and this is through a third party who informed me of this. Reddit originally, when this story broke, was vibrantly alive with information about the shooting and was apparently inundated with gun control comments. Time to get rid of guns, time to get these gun wackos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Ban guns, ban guns, ban guns. When it came out that the shooter was Muslim, the thread was taken down. And since that time, the thread has been, and this is in our politics, or our news. I think it's our news. Sorry. Anyway, I can't say for sure. It's in one of the forums in the discussion boards. But it's been, since that time, the comments that have been made regarding the shooting have been taken down, taken down, taken down, taken down. So essentially, they are putting a blanket censorship on this particular discussion thread in Reddit to prevent anyone from talking about the religion of the shooter.
Which is unfortunate. I mean, Reddit at one time was a haven for, free speech, and apparently it is no longer. But Facebook, I mean, they're deleting, as we speak, they're deleting Facebook groups that are, some are more radical than others, but some are dedicated to getting Islam completely out of the country. Some are just Islam extremist awareness Facebook groups, and they're being deleted right now. So yeah. I mean, this is reported by the people who run the pages. So I don't know how vast that is on Facebook, if it's every single one or if it's just ones of Facebook's choosing. But yeah, there is a lot of censorship.
Absolutely. This is very interesting. I've just brought up on Reddit here. Someone posted, the admins have asked us not to talk about censorship at our politics. Reminder that we don't talk about the horrible, viral, and rampant censorship on other subs, even those like our news that definitely haven't censored literally thousands of comments in the thread about this shooting. And I've seen screenshots where I don't remember exactly the exact wording, but essentially one of the admins, I believe it was, posted, please only post appropriate material in this thread, which people were posting presumably appropriate material. It just wasn't politically correct. And you just see below it just deleted comment, deleted comment, deleted comment, deleted comment, like just a wall of them.
Yeah, Aaron Swartz, the founder of Reddit's rolling over in his grave. I mean, it's when, when they hit Reddit, when they hit, 4chan and these places that, are haven for a lot of terrible things people say, but are kind of at one point was like the last bastion of a popular place where people could go and express their opinions. It's horrible. I mean, actually, I'm seeing here, and this is from the Washington Post, so I wonder actually how far this will get out or if this is going to try to be suppressed. But the shooter's father, what is let's see, the Washington Post here, is an Afghan man who holds strong political views, including support for the Afghan Taliban. In a video he posted on Saturday, he appears to be portraying himself as the president of Afghanistan. And he blames Pakistan for all suicide bombing, Islamic suicide bombing. It's not a religious thing; it's Pakistan, which I mean, the guy, obviously the father is some sort of extremist as well, and no,
he's probably what he would probably consider himself a moderate.
Oh yes, the silent majority. He's
of course,
probably in there.
Of course, like the moderate. There was the not to. I'm sorry. Were you done with your statement there?
Yes.
Okay, so this is to give you an idea of the mind of a moderate. So this is a story from several years ago now. But this was a Muslim. You probably heard this. The Muslim, because I think that it may have gotten in the news. The Muslim outreach television station. It was a Muslim outreach television station. And Make a long story short, he chopped his wife's head off. Uh, this guy was in charge of a station that was designed to let Westerners know how progressive and awesome Muslims were and they were peace loving, and he just had a fit and hacked his wife's head off one night. So that's when they say moderate, I am kind of skeptical as to what that actually means because it's a self-defined term.
Right, of course. And what are if the majority of Islam individuals, the Muslims, are peaceful? What if they? Where's my question is where's the resistance to this, like at a mass level? I mean, just interviewing somebody, a Muslim, and asking, hey, do you support this, and them saying no. I'm talking where's the protests? Where's the sit-ins? Where's the mass media campaign? I mean, it's especially in this country. I mean, I understand, you may not be able to do that in a lot of capacities in a Middle Eastern country, but here of all places, this is where you're able to do it legally. And where is it?
Oh, I've been saying that for years. I've been saying it for years. And like I said, I've been following this issue. I've been passionate about this issue since before most people even considered it an issue. And I saw the potential problem that was brewing, and now it's really getting more serious. But yeah, where's the outcry? Where's the outcry? I mean, every single time this happens, we have some token imam or cleric comes out and says, we are very sad that this happened, and we are not like this. Our community is peaceful. And then everybody just goes, oh, they're peaceful. Like they've just been reprogrammed by the most simplistic speech ever created. Like, it's so asinine. They just believe whatever they're told. And sure, I'm sure that there are absolutely peaceful imams and peaceful clerics, and there are truly moderate Muslims. There are truly Muslims that are integratable into society, that are not violent like this. But we have to look at the trends. If we're going to say that we're going to allow millions of these people into our civilization, past our borders, and to live with us here, we have to ask serious questions about how many of them are peaceful, how many of them are violent, and how do we determine which are which? I mean, is inclusivity, is it so important to make people feel welcome that we can sabotage and destroy our own civilization to do so? It seems it's just maddening to me.
Right, right. Uh, Absolutely, and it doesn't help, and I'm coming across this right now. It doesn't help as a distraction or as an excuse for people not to stand up and point the finger elsewhere. I mean, it's bad enough that evangelical Christians of all people are being blamed for this, but now you have people. And this isn't coming from news outlets. These are, just people on the internet are claiming now that the whole thing was staged by because the gay
Yeah.
community is for gun control, so they staged this to promote a gun control agenda. And when you have wackadoodles like that who are saying those things, it just adds fuel to the distraction fire and doesn't help deal with the issues at hand. So now, the left and the silent majority of Muslims can point to everything under the sun other than, it's like the old saying, when you point the finger of blame, there are three fingers pointing back at you. Well, that becomes obfuscated when people are just pulling things out of thin air, like it's a drama, or blame guns and all that. So it makes it easier to either not say anything or blame the wrong people.
Yeah, absolutely. And the conspiracy theory disruptions are getting to the point where I find it very irritating. That's not the first major shooting or major event that I've heard people say that it's staged. And I mean, Do you live on the internet? Like, have you gotten so delusional and paranoid that you only believe something through your screen filter? Maybe you should get out into the world more. Talk to some of the victims of these horrible, horrible events, because it is a horrible, horrible injustice to these people who have just been gunned down to make comments like that the day, at not even 24 hours later, and people are saying it's fake. Why don't they go to some of these scenes
Right.
and see the blood stains on the floor? It's really
Right.
enraging.
And these are the same people who say that the same victim was at the Boston bombing and was at Sandy Hook, and were doing cropping of these pictures and saying, "Oh, it's the same person." Clearly, false flag and whatnot. I mean, it's so just to be clear, the people who are putting out these conspiracy theories are most likely people on the right, because that's the whole thing, is they are, well, these people want to take away their guns, so they're going to stage these. So this isn't just an anti-left thing. I mean, anybody
Oh
who's
yeah.
going to distract from the issue. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, these are people launch off in the Zionist agenda, and I don't know what's next. The reptilians,
I've
and
heard
God
that too.
knows,
Yeah.
God knows what else. I mean, I don't mean to try to make light of the situation, but it's it's mostly the left on this, but there are elements of small pockets of the right, and of course you have the Westboro Baptist Church who's chiming in and saying that this
Oh
was
God.
a hit from God or whatever.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
mean,
it is.
so clearly this isn't just and those are the people. Those are the people that are going to see. The Westboro Baptist Church is going to get all of the. It's not going to be ISIS and Islam. It's going to be the Westboro Baptist Church that's at fault for this, and because they can't keep their mouth shut, they're just they're making it worse.
Yeah, yeah. And I started to look at conspiracy theories not too long ago as they're part of the distraction, and I think that a lot of them have to do with people feeling disillusioned. They don't feel like they're really part of their communities. They don't feel like we have a common culture. They don't feel any kind of unity, and so they start to um, become truly paranoid. And I think this is hitting epidemic levels in society, where we're seeing a lot of people with exhibiting very high levels of paranoia. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about rational skepticism. I'm talking about irrational paranoia, where people are filling in the gaps with all kinds of really, really out there stuff. And maybe some of that stuff is legitimate. Maybe there are concerns that we need to look at. There's conspiracies that definitely occur, but we need to have rational arguments and evidence to support those. And most people that subscribe to conspiracy theories do not have those. And I think that it is maybe being allowed or endorsed at times by certain interests as just a means of keeping people distracted from the real issues.
Well, that's right, and just to be clear, it's not that every conspiracy theory is bunk. I mean, there have been proven false flag operations put on by the U.S. government. There have been proven conspiracy theories. I mean, there's it's not that, but it's not that everything. I don't know. Maybe it was staged, but that that sort of thing. I don't think it was, but that sort of talk is just as distracting and just as maybe even more so harmful than the generic. Well, we need more gun control, and it's
Well,
the Christians' fault.
I think that it is a little bit more insidious because it almost like it burrows a logic destroying worm into a person's mind. It's like they start to lose the ability to think. The people who fall for the propaganda, they're not thinking logically either. But it's not because they just kind of see this giant conspiracy around them. It's just because they're not thinking critically. The people who see these giant, and I've dealt with plenty of people with this kind of an outlook, and they have these massive scaffoldings of conspiracies, it becomes dangerous for their own thinking, because if you're not using evidence and reason to support your worldview, you're inserting all kinds of cognitive bias, emotional bias, confirmation bias is a huge one. And I think that is very dangerous, not just for society, but for the individual as well. Without digressing, though, I wanted to mention it is the Daily Caller is reporting they're reporting on this Reddit ban. Reddit bans users, deletes comments that say Orlando terrorist was Muslim, and that is in the R News section. It's the R News section, so it's not even the politics section, although they probably went on there too. And Breitbart is reporting it as well. Reddit mods delete Orlando shooting post because attacker was Muslim. So again, you have to go to this. You have to go to the alternative media to even hear about this stuff.
Yeah, it's the only place. I mean, if somebody wants to get their news from CNN or Fox or whatever, that's fine. But
I don't think I'd call that news, but
well, I know. Just do us a favor and check out, some alternative media websites. I mean, just for perspective. So that's my advice for the day.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a time check?
Oh yeah, we're good. I'm gonna wrap things up. I'm gonna just closing statements here. I'm going to mention that maybe if you've listened to this so far and you're thinking, well, some of this doesn't sound quite right, or it's rubs you the wrong way, I just take the emotions out of it and just think about first, empathize with, try to feel the emotions of those poor people that were massacred. And those people that are in the hospital right now don't know if they're going to make it, or they're going to have wounds that they're going to plague them for the rest of their lives. Think about them, and in that situation, truly empathize. What is it like to be in that position? And imagine, what can we do to prevent that? What is the cause of that? And I would open always comments. Anybody want to present an argument, a rational argument. Is it gun control that's going to stop it? Because Muslim extremists use a lot of weapons other than guns. And I won't even get to the gun control issue as far as if they'd still be able to find guns if they were illegal on the black market. That aside, look at the data. Look at the link that I'm going to provide in the comments section. Look at the opinion polls straight out of the Middle East and other Muslim countries, Muslim regions, and just try to look at the situation while removing your emotional investment in it. There's been many times in my life when I've had to reanalyze my own perspective because something didn't add up, and I had to allow reason and evidence to inform my opinion. And I'll just leave you with that. I know that these opinions are still very unpopular, our perspective on this issue, but I do really encourage you to don't just listen to us. Look at information yourself and get away from the mainstream media, because it's all one giant propaganda machine. So we're going to wrap it up. Again, my condolences to anybody, all the victims, and to anybody associated with them.
That's right.
And thank you for listening. We will do some more videos like this in the future when major news events come out. I think we'll do some more of discussing what's actually going on from the perspective of manipulation in the media and the political establishment. So on that note, thank you for listening.